Since Vince McMahon left WWE and Triple H took over, the product has been a mixed bag of hits and misses. We saw the highs with Cody Rhodes finishing his story and the CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre feud, but we also had to deal with the disappointing John Cena retirement tour, baffling booking decisions, and a lackluster product throughout 2025 and 2026. But what if Vince McMahon never left the WWE? What if he was still running the company today? How different would the product look? How different would John Cena's retirement tour look? Who would be carrying the world title scene? Would stars like CM Punk and AJ Lee even return? What would happen to the careers of Austin Theory, Cody Rhodes, Gunther, Roman Reigns, and others? How different would the women's division and midcard look? Well, in this video, we're breaking it all down as we fantasy book what would happen if Vince McMahon never left WWE, starting with the John Cena retirement tour. For 2 decades, John Cena was Vince McMahon's greatest creation. And if there's one thing we know about Vince, it's the fact that he was completely against turning Cena heel. This single fact changes the entire trajectory of Cena's retirement tour. And to see exactly how, let's rewind to the 2025 Royal Rumble. Everything plays out the same as reality. Cena enters to a thunderous ovation, and he fights his way to the final 2. But it isn't enough. Cena finishes runner-up, and the retirement tour needs a detour. That detour comes at the Elimination Chamber. Inside the unforgiving structure, John Cena does what he's always done when his back is against the wall. He digs deeper than anyone thought possible. He refuses to give up. And when the final bell rings, it's John Cena who has punched his ticket to WrestleMania for a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. And the champion waiting for him? The ring general Gunther, who dismisses Cena completely. On the Raw after the Elimination Chamber, Gunther stands in the middle of the ring and tells Cena that he's a relic, someone who belongs in the past, someone who's not on his level. Gunther says that WrestleMania won't be a celebration for Cena, it will be an execution, because the ring general will personally humiliate John Cena in front of the entire world and end this farewell tour before it ever really begins. WrestleMania arrives. The two men meet under the bright lights on the grandest stage of them all. For 25 minutes, John Cena gives everything he has. He kicks out of the powerbomb. He escapes the sleeper. He hits 2 AAs that would have finished any other man on the roster, but it simply isn't enough. In the final stretch, the ring general locks in the sleeper and wrenches back as Cena passes out in the middle of the ring. The arena goes dead silent. Cena sits in the middle of the ring for a long time and then begins the walk to the back. It looks like the retirement tour might be over before it was supposed to begin. On Raw after WrestleMania, Cena comes out and says that Gunther might have been right. Maybe he doesn't have what it takes to become champion again. Maybe he's way past his prime. Cena contemplates whether he should end the retirement tour early, but then Logan Paul's music hits. The Maverick enters the ring, looks at Cena, and then he starts to laugh. Paul grabs a microphone and tells Cena that this is exactly what everyone knew was going to happen. That he's old, that he's slow, and maybe, just maybe, it's time for him to do the right thing for once in his life and go home and let his fans down one final time, just like he always has. As Cena exits the ring, Logan Paul turns and starts mocking the crowd. He looks directly at a kid in the front row wearing a John Cena t-shirt and tells the kid that his hero is a fraud. He tells him to take a good look because the man he loves is a has-been. At that moment, everything stops. Cena freezes halfway up the ramp. He turns around, and the look on his face is completely different. Something that looks a lot like the Cena from 2002, the one who hadn't been softened by success yet, the one who defined ruthless aggression. Cena marches back to the ring. Logan Paul barely has time to react before Cena scoops him up and drives him into the canvas with an AA, then a second AA, then a third. And then Cena drops down and locks in the STF in the center of the ring as officials pour down the ramp to break it up. Cena walks to the kid in the front row. He takes off his hat and places it on the kid's head. And when he looks back at the camera, the message is clear. The retirement tour isn't over. It's just getting started. And this time, John Cena isn't just fighting for a championship. He's fighting for his legacy. The following month at Backlash, Cena beats Paul clean in the middle of the ring. But the road back to Gunther is a long one. Cena isn't going to just be handed another title shot. Vince lets him know that he has to climb the ladder rung by rung. And so the next rung presents itself in the form of the Intercontinental Championship. The #1 contender match on Raw ends with Cena's hand raised, and the championship match is set. Dominic Mysterio has been carrying that Intercontinental title for months with the help of the Judgment Day behind him. But Cena is a force of nature when he's motivated, and Super Cena nails Dom with the AA and becomes Intercontinental Champion for the first time in his career at Night of Champions. However, the very next night on Raw, Judgment Day strikes. The numbers game overwhelms Cena, and Dominic recaptures the Intercontinental title. Cena has the title for less than 24 hours, and now he has to figure out what comes next. Next comes Money in the Bank. Cena enters the ladder match but comes up short once again as the Vision's Braun Breaker walks out with the briefcase. The next night on Raw, Cena comes out and says he doesn't know what comes next, but before he can say another word, Randy Orton's music hits. The Viper walks to the ring and stands face to face with his oldest rival. Orton looks at him for a long moment and tells him that if Cena doesn't know what comes next for him, but Orton does. The Viper strikes Cena with an RKO out of nowhere, and the final chapter of their rivalry is set. SummerSlam, Cena versus Orton, one last time. The match is 20 years of history compressed into 30 minutes of wrestling. Every move carries the weight of every encounter they've ever had. The callbacks are constant as Orton hits an AA on Cena, while Cena lands an RKO. In the end, after everything, it's Cena who hits the AA and gets the 3 count. After the match, Orton gets to his feet, looks at Cena, and extends his hand. Cena takes it and then pulls Orton in and embraces him in the center of the ring as the crowd gives them both a standing ovation. The momentum is building, the confidence is back, and at Clash in Paris, Cena scores a hard-fought win over AJ Styles in an instant classic. After this, Cena enters the King of the Ring tournament and tears through the bracket, producing great matches against Carmelo Hayes, Trick Williams, and then facing Braun Breaker in the finals. Breaker is flanked by the Vision, as the numbers game that has plagued Cena all year long reasserts itself immediately. But this time, Cena isn't alone. Randy Orton comes through the crowd, then AJ Styles, and the Vision, for the first time all year, loses the numbers advantage. In the end, Cena hoists Breaker onto his shoulders, hits the AA, and becomes the King of the Ring. And with that crown comes a World Heavyweight Championship match against Gunther. The retirement match. The final chapter. Saturday night's main event. John Cena's last match in a WWE ring. The match could either see Cena retire as world champion, or Gunther defeats Cena again and forever cements himself as the man who put down the GOAT. But while John Cena's retirement tour would be capturing hearts on one side of the card, the World Championship picture under Vince would be telling a completely different story. In the real timeline, the seeds were planted for The Rock versus Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. But then, the backlash from the fans was volcanic and WWE was forced to pivot. Fans had waited 2 years watching Cody Rhodes climb back from nothing, and they weren't about to let that story get hijacked. The pressure mounted, plans changed, and Cody got his moment at WrestleMania 40. But Vince McMahon doesn't change plans because the internet is upset. Vince makes the match he wants to make. And the match he wants to make is The Rock versus Roman Reigns on the grandest stage of them all. At WrestleMania 40, it's the final boss versus the Tribal Chief. In the end, Roman Reigns retains. The Tribal Chief stands tall. The story of Cody Rhodes gets shelved for now, which means the World Heavyweight Championship picture on Raw has to carry the narrative weight of Cody's story. And under Vince McMahon, that picture gets very, very interesting. Seth Rollins comes into WrestleMania 40 as World Heavyweight Champion, defending against Cody Rhodes. The match is 25 minutes of breathtaking work from 2 of the best in the world. But in the closing moments, as Cody is about to score the pin, Austin Theory's music hits. Theory, Vince's golden boy, the man Triple H quietly buried after WrestleMania 39 in the real timeline, slides into the ring with the Money in the Bank briefcase that he has won for a second time under Vince's watch. He drives it into the back of Cody's skull, then hits Rollins with the briefcase and walks out of WrestleMania as the new World Heavyweight Champion. Over the following months, Theory becomes Raw's resident cowardly heel. He manages to retain the title every single time against Rollins and Rhodes by using underhanded tactics and paying off referees. Vince himself bends the rules to protect his corporate champion. But while Vince's power games faced the wrath of Stone Cold during the Attitude Era, for Theory, that adversary comes in the form of L.A. Knight. Knight has been building momentum for over a year. Under Triple H's booking, Knight got his moments and his victories, but the main event always felt slightly out of reach. Under Vince, that changes. Theory is the corporate champion. Knight is the anti-authority rebel. The parallels to Austin and the corporation aren't subtle, and they aren't meant to be. Vince McMahon built that feud once and watched it transform professional wrestling forever. He knows how to do it again. The segments between them are electric. Theory has Knight suspended from arenas. Knight breaks in anyway. Theory gets Vince's people to strip Knight of a title shot he earned. Knight hijacks a board meeting and attacks Theory inside WWE headquarters. Every week, the stakes are raised higher. Every week, the corporate machine of Austin Theory tries to keep Knight out of the door. And every week, Knight kicks the door back open. At SummerSlam, it's Theory versus Knight for the World Heavyweight Championship. In the final moments, Knight hits the BFT and becomes the new World Heavyweight Champion. Austin Theory disappears from television for several weeks, while LA Knight defends against all comers. The momentum keeps building, and then Crown Jewel arrives. It's Knight defending his title against Gunther, and just when Knight is about to retain after hitting the BFT, Theory makes his return and pulls the referee outside the ring. The distraction is enough for Gunther to regroup and put Knight to sleep and become the new World Heavyweight Champion, setting up his rematch versus Cena, who wins the King of the Ring on the same night. Over on SmackDown, the story of Roman Reigns continues, and under Vince's watch, it continues very differently than the version we got in reality. WrestleMania 40 ends with Roman standing tall over The Rock. The Tribal Chief remains undisputed. The Bloodline is at full strength, and waiting in the wings is the Bloodline Hunter, Drew McIntyre. Drew starts picking off Bloodline members one by one. He dismantles every layer of security from the Usos to Solo Sikoa until there's nobody standing between him and Roman. At Night of Champions, it's Roman Reigns versus Drew McIntyre in a last man standing match with no Bloodline at ringside. The stipulation is that if Drew loses, he must leave SmackDown. For 40 minutes, they destroy each other. In the final moments, Drew goes for a Claymore kick, but Reigns ducks and spears Drew off the stage through a spotlight to retain the title. As per the pre-match stipulation, Drew must leave SmackDown. In exchange, Cody Rhodes is traded to SmackDown from Raw, and the American Nightmare finally finishes his story at SummerSlam. But championships and retirement tours are only one part of the story. Because when you ask what WWE looks like if Vince McMahon never leaves, you're not just asking about the main event, you're asking about the entire landscape, the roster, the presentation, the philosophy, the product itself, and that looks very, very different. Let's start with the one absence that reshapes the whole main event scene. CM Punk does not return. In reality, Triple H made the call to bring Punk back at Survivor Series 2023, and that decision sent a ripple through the entire company. Punk main evented WrestleMania. He feuded with Seth Rollins and became one of the central pillars of Raw's main event scene. Under Vince, none of that happens. Instead, the Raw main event scene is focused around Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, LA Knight, Austin Theory, and Brock Lesnar. Away from the title scenes, the roster itself looks fundamentally different. The returns of Braun Strowman and Damage Control that came under Triple H's reign simply don't happen. The roster is leaner, in some ways, hungrier. Johnny Gargano and Karrion Kross don't return. Guys like Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, Omos, Lashley, Elias, Boogs, and Logan Paul dominate the IC title and US title scenes. Stars like Penta, Rey Fenix, and Rusev never return to WWE. The women's division looks completely different. Under Triple H, the Women's Intercontinental Championship and the Women's United States Championship were introduced. Under Vince, neither title is introduced. The women's division runs on 2 world championships and a tag title. What this means in practice is fewer women getting prominent television time. But the women who do get it, Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair, are treated as genuine stars. The presentation of the product itself changes in ways that are immediately visible. The ring is clean with no sponsor logos plastered across the canvas. The pay-per-view schedule changes too. Under Triple H, the number of premium live events expanded to the point where major shows were arriving every few weeks, diluting the significance of each one. Under Vince, the calendar is tighter. Fewer shows means each one matters more. The crowd doesn't burn out. The feuds have time to develop before they're forced to a conclusion. The shows themselves feel different in tone. Longer matches are replaced by shorter, more intense ones. The emphasis shifts from in-ring performance to storytelling as the selling point. Behind-the-curtain productions like WWE Unreal get canceled immediately. The mystique of professional wrestling is one of its most valuable assets, and you don't squander valuable assets for a Netflix special. Speaking of which, the mystique of the biggest stars is protected at all costs. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, Randy Orton, and The Rock appear periodically. You don't get Roman every week. You get Roman when it matters. And because you don't get him every week, the weeks when you do get him feel like events. So what is WWE under a Vince McMahon who never left? It is louder, messier, more controversial, but also more entertaining. Whether it is the WWE you want depends entirely on the kind of professional wrestling you enjoy. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed WWE more under Vince McMahon or under Triple H. And if you liked this video, don't forget to subscribe for more dope fantasy booking.